And we continue at 2:05 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang in Culver City.
John, it looks like we are making some very good progress on the major fires burning in Los Angeles County. The Palisades fire, 23,713 acres burned, but it's at 19% containment. The Eaton fire, 14,117 acres burned at 45% containment. These fires are not growing much at this point, and we're making some good progress in putting them out, and no new fires have sparked up with all the winds, but we are looking at over 12,300 structures that have been destroyed between the two fires in the last week.
It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. She is an insurance commissioner at the County of Los Angeles. You can get her online at transferrisktomaryland.com. Marilyn Sparks, welcome.
Hello.
Well, thanks so much for stopping by. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. How can I help?
Well, could you first start out by telling us a little bit about yourself? How long have you been in the insurance industry? Those sorts of things.
Well, in my professional career, I've always been in lending, whether commercial or residential, banking, insurance, and so it found me here now. I own my own agency, and I also serve as the Los Angeles County Insurance Commissioner for the 5th District, appointed by Supervisor Catherine Barger.
And could you explain what those duties involve as an insurance commissioner in Los Angeles County?
It is a non-paid position. We meet every other month to discuss topical insurance agenda items, and they range from workers' comp, health insurance, earthquake, property and casualty, etc.
All right. Well, thank you so much for making yourself available today to answer insurance-related questions. I know with the fires, a lot of people are emailing us. They have questions about insurance, and we're not experts. We don't have the answers. So thank you so much for loaning us your expertise.
Glad to be of help.
All right. Let's start out with the number that it is estimated that there is something along the lines of $30 billion in damage to Southern California because of these fires. Does that number seem accurate to you, or do you think that number will likely grow?
I think it will grow. Probably double. And that's just based on, many reports that we hear and we read, hoping that it doesn't grow that much, but it is absolutely a possibility based on the scale of the devastation.
And we've seen fires this big before in California, but we rarely see them in populated areas, and certainly we rarely see them in areas where the home prices, the home values are what they are.
Yes, wildfire could start out as a wildfire and then move very quickly into residential areas, and this one was extremely tough because of the winds, and it was just, this is unimaginable. This is something like you see in a movie.
Do you think it's possible that insurance companies, that any specific insurance company could go bankrupt as a result of this fire?
It would be hard to say because I'm not privy to all of the company's financials, but it could put them in a very tough position. Absolutely. I don't know, how they are. I know some companies are very financially conservative. I know others are trying to get their bearings after coming off the losses that they've endured in previous years. It's hard to recuperate.
What about the FAIR plan, the plan of last resort? We know that many people in areas like Pacific Palisades, Malibu, were forced to buy their policies through the FAIR plan because no one else would sell them one. And the FAIR Plan, according to the woman who runs it, she went in front of the state legislature not long ago and said that they were one bad fire away from insolvency. Well, this is the largest fire in the history of Los Angeles County, the most costly fire in the history of the United States. Certainly, this would meet the standards of another big fire. Do you believe the FAIR Plan is going to make it out of this?
Well, the FAIR Plan not only relies on premium, but they also have reserves and reinsurance. And but that's not to say that the other insurance carriers would be assessed to help out. We're not going to know the final answer until all of the claims come in and they start to do the calculations. But all of the admitted companies in California participate in the Guarantee Association, where we all kick in, a set amount out of every dollar of premium that is collected to help in these cases.
KGO Television did a report recently. We played it earlier in the program today, where they said essentially that the FAIR Plan in particular is going to use national data to try to fulfill claims that are being made from these fires in the state of California. And as you know, it costs different to build a home in Idaho than it does to build a home in Los Angeles. And if you're using data from Idaho, you're going to really be shortchanging a homeowner in California. And there is widespread fear that homeowners who had the FAIR Plan are going to get lowballed. They're going to get a fraction of what they actually need to be made whole. Do you think that's a fair concern to have right now?
I think it's a concern, but I don't know how founded that concern is. Your policy should be built around the cost to rebuild your home in your area. And so a home that is built in a very remote part of the state versus something that's a little more populated is going to have different costs. The price of lumber might be the same, but the cost of transportation to get it there will be different. The cost of labor. There's many factors that go into trying to determine how much it would cost to rebuild your home at your address. And when someone is... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So when you're getting an insurance policy, your agent or your broker is helping you make that determination.
Right now, there are some people who are not allowed by the government to go back to their home. If the home had burned down and they deemed it not to be safe, some of those entire neighborhoods are just blocked off, and homeowners aren't allowed to assess the damage or see with their own two eyes just exactly what type of situation they're dealing with. Given that, how long should homeowners expect it to take if their home burned down in a fire before they actually see money from their insurance company, real money?
It's going to take a while, and each carrier is going to be different because each carrier has their own staffing. So are they hiring more people, or is their team adequate that they have in place already? There are the different carriers just have their own process. So I hate to put a timeline on it because I don't want your listeners to have, I want to set the expectation that this is going to be a timely process, and I mean a while. I think what they need to do is contact their insurance company if they haven't already, and at least get the ball rolling, because some insurance companies are giving money now for temporary living, even to replace some of their personal property like their clothing, things that they need right now because they still have to go to work or go to school, whatever it is. So check with your insurance company immediately.
Having worked in this industry for some time, have you noticed some patterns of certain companies that are easier to deal with in circumstances like this and certain companies that are just a pill?
I think you can get either answer. It's completely subjective. Some people will tell me, "Gosh, you're so easy to work with," and then other people don't feel that I'm quick or responsive right away. It's going to depend on the day and the workload. So I think that's really subjective. Um, I think grace is what's in order. And I worked at a mobile claim center over the weekend, and I saw firsthand. I witnessed how people are reacting and the shock, and their eyes are glazed over in some cases, and none of this has really hit them. And to see the emotion is something that this is something I've not witnessed, and so I can't imagine what they're going through. And I think all of the insurance companies, at least the front line, whether it's the agent, the broker, or the claims rep, most of us are from here. I worked in Altadena for many years, and it's one of my favorite communities. And to watch on television some of the landmarks that I used to visit burned down, it's incredible. And so I think we are all empathetic to what homeowners and even renters are going through, and business owners, and we want to be as helpful as possible, but there is still a process. Their insurance is a contract, and that contract has to be reviewed and adhered to.
And I would imagine also, from the point of view of the insurance companies, they're not built to deal with this volume all at once. I mean, just take a look at the airlines, for example. If there's weather in Dallas and a lot of flights get canceled and people misconnect and they need to get rebooked on other flights, and everyone calls the 800 number all at once, that 800 number is not built to have, how many thousands of people calling in at exactly the same time trying to get rebooked on different flights. You're just going to have to wait on hold. They might have to call you back. It's just going to be a process. It's not ideal,
Yes.
but it's just the reality of what the situation is. I would imagine that when you have thousands and thousands of homeowners who probably get their insurance through the same companies, because not all companies sell policies in places like the Pacific Palisades. So you're probably talking about a handful of companies that do the majority of the business in these areas, and all of a sudden there's this avalanche of calls of people who want action going on right now, and it's not how they're put together.
Right. We would love for everybody to rebuild quickly and put this behind us, but it is going to take time to process your claim, to assess damage, process your claim, start rebuilding. I mean, even if, let's just say, we could write a check today for you to be able to rebuild your home. There's no power on your street. How are we going to start building? We can't operate, the power tools and things like that. It's not as simple as we would like it.
Well, and then you're also dealing with environmentally sensitive areas, because when you have an area that's burned up, sometimes the drinking water isn't safe. Sometimes it's not safe to breathe in the air. You have a number of factors that are going to just slow this down.
Yes. Absolutely.
We had one listener call in last week whose home burned down in Pacific Palisades, and he said that he was given an estimate that it would take 3 to 5 years realistically to rebuild his house.
Is he meaning just the settlement from the insurance, or is he including other obstacles such as building permits, the California Coastal Commission, all of those other hoops?
Oh yeah, he meant the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, I think that estimate is fair.
Your heart just breaks when you hear that because this guy who called in said he's of a certain age, and he said,
Hmm.
I don't know if I want to spend the next 3 to 5 years of my life dealing with
Right,
rebuilding a house and getting permits
right,
and those sorts of things. It would be different if
right.
you're
I had a
30 than if you're 70.
Yes, yes. I did have a conversation with someone who was over the age of 70, but not part of the disaster, just a local resident, and we were just chit-chatting about it. And she said, I would take the insurance money and go buy a condo and be done. And you're right. Your caller is right. How do you want to spend that next 3, 5 years of your life? I mean, even if your home remained somewhat intact and most of the neighborhood is gone, do you want to continue to drive through devastation on your way to work, on your way home from work? I don't know. I mean, these are really, this is not a simple, there's not a simple answer because there's so many other factors than just rebuilding my house. It's quality of life. Where do I want to live? What about my mental health? Um, my kids don't live in a neighborhood filled with other children. There's just so much to consider and weigh before you start to think about next steps.
We've read some reports that suggest that for those insurance policyholders in the state of California, homeowners whose
Hmm.
homes were not damaged in these fires, they should expect increases in their insurance premiums that could be as much as 40%. Do you think that's true?
It's going to be hard to say when their insurance is coming up for renewal, the insurance carrier is looking at your policy months in advance of the renewal, and they're looking at the surrounding area. Are we at capacity? What about concentration to just specific neighborhoods? I I think the biggest thing that I want your listeners to try to understand is that when someone says, "Oh, I've been with the same company for 30 years. I don't understand why they're canceling me or I should say why they're non-renewing me." A insurance policy is a 1-year contract, and every year it gets reevaluated. And so even though the renewal may be automatic, it automatically renews and we, bill your mortgage company or you send in your payment. If your policy runs, I'm just going to use calendar year, January 1 to December 31, and we say in exchange for X amount of premium, this is the policy. We're going to rebuild, allow for a certain amount of reconstruction costs, loss of use, personal property, separate structures, etc., in exchange for this amount of premium. And at the end of the year, we're going to reevaluate it again and see if we want to take on that risk. And when I say we, I mean insurance companies. We are in a business to make money. We are a for-profit industry. And our job is to evaluate risk and say, this is worth taking on or it's not. And sometimes we have to charge more because that is what is needed. I mean, I don't know who said it, but there's truth in price. Someone can say, my home is worth $1 million, but really it will only sell for 600,000. It's kind of like what the market will bear. Insurance is somewhat similar in that the premium includes the cost of the risk that the insurance company is taking. And we hope to collect more premium than what we pay out in claims, which
If you have
hasn't been happening since prior to 2022. And that's why we saw the exodus of so many insurance companies.
If you have an insurance-related question for Marilyn, give us a call at 800-222-5222 or shoot us an email at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. We have a question from listener Andy through the email box. He says he received a request for property inspection this week after 30 years of coverage. Is this unusual or even legal?
It is legal. It's in your contract, which is your policy, and in your policy, this is, extremely paraphrased. You agree to keep your home in good working order, good condition, and in exchange, we'll issue a policy. It has become more commonplace than in years prior. Because again, like we talked about earlier, insurance companies are trying to figure out, is your home worth the risk? Is this I don't want to say worth the risk, that's not a good term. Is your home insurable? Are we willing to take on the risk for X amount of dollars? And if you have tree branches, trees, the branches are hanging over your roof, which is a big fire hazard. If you have a bunch of debris laying around, which is a fire hazard, things of that nature. Maybe you're missing shingles. Those things are a concern to us. If your roof is 35 years old and we have a huge windstorm and it blows off part of your roof, you want us to replace your roof. But it's already 35 years old. And many companies have a replacement cost value. So you're going to get a $20,000 roof that's that's over 35 years old, and you only want to pay $500 a year in premium. That model doesn't work.
Let's go to Lee in Laverne. Lee, say hi to Marilyn.
Hey, hi, Marilyn. Thank you. You've got great information. This is an ancillary thing. It's an insurance question, but I just called my insurance agent. My 6-month car insurance is due for renewal. I usually pay, I'm with the cheapest guys in town. That's Fred Loya, and I pay between $180 and $190. And they hit me with, Agent Smith told me, your next 6-month payment will be $270. And so I was going to go all neo on them and ask why. And apparently, California has raised the minimum liability for the other guy's insurance from 15, 30, and 5, and it's now 30, 60, and 15. And this is the first I've heard this. This isn't being covered by the news. Can you expound on that, please? This is for car insurance.
Yes. So that new law was effective January 1st and was actually passed a couple of years ago with the January 1st, 2025. But, I mean, if you think about it, an ambulance ride from an accident site to a hospital is about $7,500. Yeah. It's very expensive. My own daughter, we had from a local hospital from Glendora to Pasadena was $5,600. And so if you think about the limits on your auto policy, that is really so low to begin with. And I know everyone's having a hard time, or many people are having a hard time economically, and these increases are hurting many people. But if you're found liable for someone else's injury or worse, their death, those policy limits are not going to be enough. Right.
I agree.
And so what happens? They're going to go after any equity in your home, any savings that you have, if you have college money that you've set aside, cash value in your life insurance. They can even levy or garnish your paycheck 25% of every paycheck. So even
Marilyn,
future
John,
earnings.
I'm broke. I don't own a home, and I'll never own a home here. And you're doing yeoman's work. Thank you so much for the information to everybody. And my heart just bleeds. I wake up every single morning crying about, I grew up at the beach. Manhattan, Redondo, Hermosa, and what's going on in the Palisades and everything else. I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. I just watch the images, and I cry every single day. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
I'll get off the phone. You guys be good. Thank you for the information. Blessings. Okay? Bye-bye.
Thank you for the call,
you,
Lee. Let's get one more in. Hal in Santa Clarita. Hal, hello.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hal.
Hey, so if I have a home that burnt down, and it probably will take 3 years to get the home rebuilt or longer, does the insurance company compensate the homeowners for finding a rental property until their home is finished, or how does that work?
Yes, so take a look at your policy or contact your agent or broker. There is an item in your policy called ALE or loss of use, and that provides money for, there's a certain dollar amount for a certain amount of time, and it's subject to your policy that would allow you for expenses above and beyond your current living. So if you have a mortgage on your home, you still have to make that mortgage payment, but this would allow for you to live somewhere else temporarily.
Okay,
All right.
Is it based on the value of the home?
Not at all. It is actually a percentage. In most cases, it's a percentage of the dwelling coverage.
Okay, thank you.
So if let's say your cost to rebuild is $500,000, your loss of use is typically a percentage of that $500,000.
All right. Marilyn Sparks, insurance commissioner for the County of Los Angeles. You can get her online at transferrisktomaryland.com. Thank you so much for stopping by and lending us your expertise. A lot of people have a lot of questions, a lot of concerns about insurance policies and the insurance industry right now, and we appreciate your time today explaining it to us.
You're welcome. Can I leave your listeners with one more thing?
Sure.
Please reach out to your agent or broker and have a policy review. Make sure that your homes are properly and adequately covered so that they're rebuilt. Make sure that you don't have to get into the weeds of all of it, but just make sure that you've got an overview of how your policy works to protect you.
Marilyn Sparks, thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, with the end of the show quickly approaching, if you want to keep the party going, that's easy to do.
You know what you probably need in your life? You need to go back to 2022 when we did all those segments regarding Cecily Myart Cruz.
Get that money!
So go to KABC.com, click on podcast.
We demand higher pay.
Go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes.
But let us keep it real.
You can do a Google on the YouTube or get that handy-dandy KABC app.
Wait!
Search KABC AM in the Apple App Store or the Android Store.
Let's go!
It's the easiest way to listen live to this radio station and do all the podcasts.
And I want you to be all the way pissed off.
And we might have an update on her tomorrow.
I don't know if the audience is ready for that.
It's really early in the year for that.
It has been a very hard year already. I don't know if I can put this audience through 8 minutes of Cecily Myart Cruz screaming at the LAUSD school board because she wants a new contract.
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
It was quite something.
It did get very loud. And this wasn't a rally. This was at a board meeting.
Is there anything that she does that's not loud?
Our babies.
That one's kind of soft.
And Randy, we're on the move in the Bay Area.
We do a version of the Fix California Hour on KSFO in the Bay Area. It airs weeknights at 11. Sometimes it airs at 6 o'clock as well. Depends on the schedule for the day. Here's the thing. We just moved from 560 to 810. And 810 is a huge signal. It's powerful. goes across state lines at night, goes to Canada at night, and more importantly, it goes to Southern California at night, crystal clear. So set a preset on your radio next to 790 for 810, and if you're buzzing around at night, listen to the Fix California Hour.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
John writes in, reflecting on Karen Bass crassly invoking the World Cup as the reason we have to rebuild the Palisades. Where are all these people coming to Los Angeles for the World Cup going to stay? There's no room at the inn.
Well, that's a very good question. Walgreens announced they're closing a bunch of stores.
You know, it's shocking. Locking up every single thing in the store leads to customers not going there, and then the store goes out of business.
Well, where the hell are we going to get our prescriptions if they all go under?
Probably off one of those flea markets on Market Street.
Probably.
How ghetto does it look that they have to lock up the socks?
For more on Walgreens shuttering several stores in the Bay Area, here's KTVU, Fox 2.
Yeah, this is one of the 12 San Francisco Walgreens that are set to shut their doors for good in February, and customers tell me stores like this are neighborhood anchors.
They're also the places where the shoplifting occurs the most.
Ding, 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 ding.
San Franciscans throughout the city are learning their local Walgreens is one of those closing its doors for good next month.
There's a lot of people who use Walgreens, who go to Walgreens not only for prescriptions, but for a lot of things. It's just really a shame.
That's where you go for a very, very, very specific battery that you don't know where it is.
Well, I go there for king-size Kit Kats.
Well, we knew that.
Walgreens announced it would be closed.
It's where you go for Valentine's Day candy in March.
Walgreens announced it would be closing 12 stores in San Francisco in the final week of February, with a statement reading in part, quote, increased regulatory and reimbursement pressures are weighing on our ability to cover the costs associated with rent, staffing, and supply needs. It is never an easy decision to close a store.
Wait, they're making this a part of Medicare reimbursement?
I don't think that has a lot to do with it.
It is never an easy decision to close a store.
Let's not forget, it was about a year ago when the Walgreens in one part of San Francisco had to put chains on the freezers because people were stealing the pizza and the ice cream.
And at a certain point, when you have to buy pencils through bulletproof glass, you figure out that Amazon.com exists.
Off camera, workers say the pharmacy and retail chain is telling them the pharmacy side of the business is underperforming. Customers also point to rampant theft at some locations. We captured this video of a man walking out of the Geary Walgreens with a suitcase full of beer and food that workers inside were saying he hadn't paid for.
Wait, he put all the beer in a suitcase?
It looks like he's going through the Tom Bradley terminal, huh?
Customers say the Blockbuster and Ross that had been here at the Geary Mall are already long gone.
And this is this building is a whole block long. What are they going to do with this building? It's empty except for Domino's. Like, what are they going to do here?
The only place left is a place to get a pizza.
The only person paying rent in that shopping center is the Noid, huh?
It's just going to be an eyesore. It's just going to attract more trash and more people and more. Anyway, I was pretty bummed when I read the news this morning.
Can you say doom loop? The first week of Daniel Lurie's mayorship, and he's got to deal with a whole bunch of Walgreens going out of business.
Supervisor Shaman Walton said 2 of the Walgreens locations that are closing are in his community and will deprive San Franciscans of access to medications they need and retail options.
We obviously have communities of color. We have seniors and folks with disabilities that rely on these pharmacies.
So does everybody else.
Yep, and you had your opportunity to do something about the theft, and you guys didn't.
Not having these right in our community is going to have a devastating effect.
Supervisor Walton said he has been in discussion with Walgreens and said the company has made it clear that these closures are coming and that there's no room for delays or negotiations. He said,
yeah, they're getting out of Dodge.
That pretty much slams the door on it.
It's a bad month for San Francisco. The Walgreens, 12 of them closing, and that Safeway in the Fillmore is closing. There's going to be nothing to do there.
Just in general, 2025 is not off to a great start.
Nope.